So howdy YouTubers, this is the Delta 9000 hybrid table saw. They call it a hybrid, but it's heavy enough and uh, only mobile enough to really be considered just kind of a partially mobile cabinet saw. Um, there is one other review of this saw that I saw on YouTube, so I thought I'd put another one out there. I've had it for, oh, how many months now? I've had it for a few months and I built a couple of projects with it. So this isn't a 2-year review or anything like that, but it's another piece of information that you can use when you decide whether to buy this saw. I bought this saw at Lowe's. I got it on sale and it was roughly $7.75, maybe 7 something. I think it lists for maybe 9. This is the version that has metal here rather than cast iron. This is cast iron and the sides are steel. So I'll jump right into it. Real quick, the things that I like about the saw: the miter gauge, the sliding square here, the noise or lack thereof, all good. I'll jump into the thing that I like least about the saw. And I'd say the thing that I like least is the mobility of it. I kind of bought the saw because I thought it would be really mobile. But this wheel here is not as useful as I thought. And in fact, the usual mobile stand that you get for a cabinet saw is probably a lot better than this, because these wheels here are stationary. They don't turn. So as you can see, I have a very small area here. It's very confined. And my hope was that I could pivot the saw out easily. It just turns out to not be as easy pivoting out as I wanted, but it works in this area. Other than that, I think it's a great saw. It was difficult getting all the pieces from this saw. I bought it at Lowe's. They delivered it without this rail. If you notice, this rail is actually pretty long, 50 some odd inches, I guess, and or more. They delivered the saw without the rails, so the saw was unusable. It took, I think, 20 days to get the rail after 10 days to get the saw. That was irritating. Called Delta. Delta's service was pretty poor, to be honest. And Lowe's service tried to help. Eventually, I had one guy who took control of the situation and actually talked to the dealer and got it. So, I mean, I got to give some kudos to Lowe's. They did their job. Probably not in quite as timely a manner as maybe I would have liked, but the reality is Lowe's was pretty good about it. And I did, let's see, I bought it online and had it delivered to my local store. It weighs a couple 100 pounds. I actually couldn't get it out of the car with myself and my wife. So I ended up just taking the saw out of the box and lifting it out and putting it on the ground and building it in the hallway and bringing it in. So power switch, storage for the sliding square there, adjusting the angle on the right hand side, storage back here for, probably hard to see in the dark here, storage back there for your wrench and your extra blade, I guess, if you want to put one there. There are adjustments for the angle here, and I did do some adjusting. I basically took a electronic angle gauge and stuck it on the saw and adjusted it, and it adjusts just fine. And I've cut miters after adjusting it, and they're as perfect as I need them to be. I'm building furniture and a couple of side table type pieces that are built with miters, and I lacquered over the miters and they look perfect. So functionally, saw cuts really well. I have pretty few complaints other than the wheels. I like this miter gauge. It's a good solid miter gauge. It's metal. This is plastic, but the rest of it's metal. I've cut miters with this. I've made cuts with this. I've also measured with calipers to check the square of it, and the saw is pretty darn square. There's nothing, I got no real complaints about how well it cuts, which is the exact opposite of the crummy $200 contractor saw that I had before this. I just about hurt myself trying to cut miters on hardwood. I've cut oak, I've cut walnut. It all cuts pretty well so far. You put a harder wood through it or a denser wood through it and cut a thick one, well, you're going to have some challenges, but other than that, it's meeting my expectations. Let's take a look at the Delta T square. There is another name for this that escapes me off the top of my head. Maybe I'll put it in the notes. I like this slider. It slides well. That's a big concern in buying a saw, particularly if you've never seen it function. If you go into the store, they have a different saw out there, and the square is not as nice as this one. But it slides well. As you'll see here, it's going to move a little bit when we tighten it down. You kind of get used to figuring out how to lock it down perfectly. I don't have any trouble with it. It kind of has to move a little bit because as you move it back and forth, it kind of moves in a little less than square manner. But I like it just fine. It's great. I got no issue with it. What else to say about the saw? So overall, the one, if you buy it, make sure they ship you the rails. Just don't accept it if they don't give you the rails. They have to come in a separate box. Don't let them tell you that they don't. They do. And if you read all the reviews, other people have said that too, and I should have heeded their warnings. But I didn't. But in the end, I got everything, and it works great. It's a nice saw. Let's fire it up. It's quiet. I use a good solid shop vac. It's a $100 6-horse shop vac. It works really well in terms of dust collection. It plugs into the port on the back, just like so, as you would expect. I've heard criticisms of this saw. I've heard people say that it would get clogged and so on. I've filled up an entire shop vac with it so far. No problem with that. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. But with a big shop vac, dust collection is good. I've got no issue with dust collection here. Let's plug it in and turn it on so we can hear just how quiet it is. Sorry for the crappy photo video here, but I just wanted to put this out there real quick for people. All right, we have safety here. Our T-square is down. Our blade is up. We're not cutting anything, but that's okay too. So let's. The other thing that this saw has that some others don't is it has a brake. So you'll notice that the blade will stop faster than perhaps some other saws. That's it. It's not an especially loud saw. I'm in my house. It's quiet enough. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-ish seconds. So if you're making cut after cut after cut, it stops fast enough for you to resituate, fire it back up, and make your cut. I'm going to unplug it here. And then just take a quick look at how the workings in here. A couple of nice features. I've used a data blade on it. The 1/4-inch data blade will fit through this plate. My 1/4-inch data blade fits through there, which is convenient. So if I'm cutting finger joints. I just tend to make them 1/4 inch because it's a lot more efficient. The miter gauge has holes to mount a piece of wood into it, and I actually created a big quick jig that mounts into it for cutting finger joints. But back to what we were looking at here. This saw has a pin when you want to take out the blade. You push that in, it'll hold the blade. My last saw didn't have that. It's nice. It has a riving knife like any other, and it comes out and goes back in the same way a regular saw does, just like that. And the riving knife will pull right out and go right back in. I did initially have a problem with this lever. I got it sort of reversed somehow and had to fool with it for a while to get it to work correctly back as it was, but eventually I figured that out. So changing the blade actually is easier than I would have expected, because you can hold the blade stationary and just turn it here. Now, I do have to be careful not to drop the bolt down into the engine here, because the engine is contained, the motor is contained, whereas some other saws they're not. So the dust actually goes down in here and out the port on the back. So it makes for great dust collection. As you can see, I have a really small area. I've actually got a heater next to me. So it's kind of important to me that I have really good dust collection, and this meets my needs. With this big old shop vac, it meets my needs. And I think part of that is the contained motor here that helps encourage that. So there's, I don't know what we've got down here as of now. There's not much sawdust down there. There is a little. I don't know if you can even see it in the video. There's enough that it would take me 30 seconds to vacuum it up down there. So some sawdust comes out the bottom, but not a whole lot. Most of it goes straight into the shop vac. All right, the power button, I think other people have said this is unique in that you actually have to kind of grab it and pull it, which is fine with me. Plus, it's easy enough that if you were in a bad situation, you could lean into it to turn it off, which is always good. And it's unlikely that you're going to catch on it and turn it on by accident with that design, so I've got no issue with the funky power button. It's useful. Let's see, anything else to say before I turn you guys loose? Overall, I think I would buy the saw again. I would look at other cabinet saws with wheels that were more useful to see if I would probably evaluate this saw against another cabinet saw that had 4 wheels that all turned, because I think that might be more useful to me in this little confined space here. But no major complaints about the saw. It cuts well, it's quiet, the dust collection's great. Everything that comes with it is fine with me. It has plenty of power. I've yet to have it burn or not cut through anything that I tried to cut. I haven't cut any really thick wood, but I would imagine I'd have to go a little slower than the stuff I've been cutting. But there it is. So that's the Delta 9000. This is the base version with the metal. Assembly, I guess I should talk about. Assembly, I did not find it to be exceptionally difficult. For me, it came together, actually my 11-year-old and I put it together. It was not a terribly difficult build. I've heard people say it took 6 hours. I mean, you take your time and you put it together. It takes time. Otherwise, if you're buying this out, chances are you can put it together without any real trouble. It's not much of an issue. These wheels work nicely. They lock. That's how efficient they are. I've got no issue with them. They're nice. The handle's plastic. This is metal. They lock down if you want them to. Same with this one. And voila. So if you're thinking about it, only negative, maybe the wheel. If you got a big garage and you're going to roll around, you probably won't have any trouble with the wheel. In my little space here, it's kind of it's not quite sufficient, but it works. I can live with the wheel. And otherwise, the saw's great. If you have any questions, post them in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer them. And there you have the Delta 9000.